is Analog Spectrum. Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some. Whatever the hell that means.
This is Analog Spectrum. This is Tony. I'm
Spectrum
here with Doug.
of the analog.
Analogs and stuff.
Maybe we got to talk about one day what this name actually means.
I don't know. It's a great name. I'm used to it now.
Let's figure out what it means, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay. That's a podcast. It's going to happen. Because clearly when you hear the podcast for today, you're going to realize we're running out of fucking ideas.
No, we got plenty of ideas. We're sometimes too lazy to actually do them.
That's true. Well, the last podcast, the Tarantino podcast, actually the Hodgepodge, and this one did take some research, I think, for both of us.
Yeah,
Yes.
This one did take some research, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of half-assed it a little bit.
Same.
Lots of cutting and pasting, but
We're going to go down that path. Yeah. So, and just to explain what we're talking about to everybody, we're doing a "Where Are They Now?"
Yeah, whatever happened to, or where are they now, or
Exactly.
do you remember? Yeah,
Yeah. So one of them is John Wayne. He's dead.
John Wayne.
did you know
Yeah,
that?
what would John Wayne be doing if he's alive today?
Beating on the inside of his coffin.
That's right. Let me out. Claustrophobic. It smells in here.
Gotta get in here. So, which is interesting because we just got done talking about Kill Bill. So
yeah. Well, there you go.
But so you picked three, I picked three.
Yep.
Why don't we just name them as we go? We don't need to get
Okay.
into it
So
right
yeah,
now.
let me ask you this: how did you pick your three? What did you have criteria, or did you just randomly pick people?
I definitely wanted to pick people that I was familiar with, that probably from the 80s, early 90s, because that was a time when I was probably more, more engaged in like new movies and all that kind of stuff. Actors or actresses that I chose all actors or actresses or female actors, whatever the hell we're calling them nowadays. And people that I was like, hey, I really enjoyed your movies. I thought you were on a path of stardom, and you just disappeared, right?
This started off, I think, at my house a couple of weeks ago. Tony and his wife were over, and we were hanging out, and I had on Yacht Rock.
Yep.
The Yacht Rock station, and the theme song for Arthur came on.
Yes.
And we were like, hell yeah, Arthur. Oh yeah. Hey man, whatever happened to Dudley Moore anyways? And then podcast idea. So that's
there it
this
is.
whole thing.
And I think it's a good one. I mean,
yeah. So let's go ahead and start with Dudley Moore. He's
let me before you get too far. Well, let's go and start with Dudley Moore. I was going to say, I think that was like the one I'm really the most curious about. So
Dudley Moore, we're going to start with him.
Go for. Well, what I mean by that, maybe you want to hold that.
No, I'm not. I'm not playing that game. That's a clickbait game. I'm not doing it. I'm honest with our audience.
It's a clickbait
Tony.
game. Look at you.
I'm honest with our audience. I want to give them what they want.
Guys, Doug doesn't play clickbait games. He doesn't.
Yeah. Dudley Moore's at the top of my piece of paper, so I'm going to start with him.
Go.
Otherwise, I'm going to get lost. But anyway,
my one that I'm going to talk about last is the one I find the most interesting. Go ahead.
Okay, clickbaiter. Dudley Moore. Yeah. So
I'm a master
English,
clickbaiter, by the way.
Click master. I can see a Saturday Night Live skit in there. Anyway, so Dudley Moore, English dude.
Mhm.
And he became a choir. He joined the choir at the age of 6. So he's been a music guy his whole life. And then by the time he hit 11, he got a scholarship to the Guildhall School of Music in England.
Okay.
And he took up harpsichord, organ, and violin, and music theory and composition. So he very quickly kind of developed into a really talented piano player and an organ player. And because of that, this was going through in this country what we would call junior high and high school. But because of that, he got a scholarship to what do they call this? Magdalen College in Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell that is, but I'm sure there's some music lovers out there who go, oh my God, I didn't know he went to that. Anyway, so he got a scholarship to Oxford. When he's in university, he started getting into jazz. This was in the early 60s. And so he became a accomplished jazz pianist and composer, which totally reminds me of a joke, but I'm not going to tell. So his first kind of foray into the theater and the arts on a public scale was he was on a stage production of a thing called Beyond the Fringe, which is very English. And there was four of them, and it was like a satire kind of a deal. Got kind of a lukewarm kind of a audience response. But one of the guys that he was in there with was named Peter Cook, and he ended up hooking up with Peter Cook later on, where they got invited by the BBC to do a comedy partnership. And then, so they kind of spiraled that for the rest of their careers together. They stayed in touch, and their relationship got kind of weird. Later on, they started to not like each other much, but they kept going professionally. They kept working together. And they did this a skit that I thought was pretty funny. That what did he do? I forgot what they call it. Even I didn't copy and paste that particular part of it, but Dudley Moore played a guy with one leg, and he was applying for a gig like as a football player or something, a soccer player, something like that. And it was like a, almost Monty Python-ish kind of a deal. But anyway, he became somewhat famous for that. And again, he was always a musician, and he formed a group called the Dudley Moore Trio, and they released several records. Then in the 70s, he moved to Hollywood, and he was in a movie with Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase called Foul Play. I think I'd seen that, but mediocre. It was kind of okay. But Blake Edwards made 10 with him in it, and that was his breakout role in 10 with what's her face, Bo Derek.
Yep.
Never did understand the attraction. I mean, she was she's a pretty girl. Yeah, but I didn't like the dreadlock thing when she was, they had her hair like, it wasn't even dreadlocks, was it? It was just like what do you call it? Braids. Cornrows. Cornrows, yeah. Yep. It never was attractive to me. But anyway, beside the point. And that was one of the biggest box office hits in 1979. That was a big movie. And
huge.
Yeah. So after that, he did one called Holy Moses, which wasn't very popular. And then, of course, in 81, he was Arthur. He played Arthur, which, if you haven't seen that movie, Arthur, it was great. He plays a millionaire who's a lush, and he's just funny. Like he's got this infectious laugh throughout the whole movie. It was pretty good. And that also starred Liza Minnelli and John Gilead. It was huge success commercially and critically, and he even got nominated for an Oscar for that. Did you know that, for Best Actor?
No, I didn't know that.
But he didn't win. He lost out to Henry Fonda for On Golden Pond.
Oh gosh, there you go.
Yeah, stupid Henry Fonda. But yeah, On Golden Pond won all kinds of awards, I think, that year. So anyway, so he did a dozen or so movies after that, including Arthur 2, which was not successful. Most of the rest of his films and stuff were not very successful. But he did hook up with a guy named Tony Bill, who he was famous for a couple of other movies. They connected, and they put up a restaurant in 1983 called 72 Market Street Oyster Bar and Grill. It was down in Venice, and it closed in 2000. So that thing had a pretty good run, man. It was 17 years or something. It was a pretty good run. But then he had to go to the hospital in 97, and they told him that he had calcium deposits in the, hold on, you're going to have to help me with this, doctor. Basal ganglia.
Ganglia.
Yep. Basal ganglia on his brain. It's irreversible frontal lobe damage.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this?
No, it may have a different name, but I know what the basal ganglia is. I know what calcium deposits are. I might look it up while you're talking and see if there's a.
Okay. Well, anyway, apparently it's irreversible frontal lobe damage.
Yep.
And then he went. That was one thing. And then in September that same year, he had quadruple coronary bypass.
I'm also familiar with that.
Yeah. So he had some issues, but he ended up living with one of the actresses that he was um, working with, and he ended up kind of being a leech. He lived in this woman. Hold on, I'm going to tell you who she is.
And also, real quick, it's the medical term for that is progressive supranuclear palsy is what he had. So,
Oh, okay.
and not familiar with it. Okay,
Okay.
that's I'm not familiar with that at all.
Okay. But yeah, so he ended up, I believe, oh yeah, yeah. Dogs are fighting. He ended up living with Susan Anton for a long time,
No way.
and her husband. It was just like he was like a roomie or something for a long time. But he was married a couple of times, and he married some woman named Nicole Rothschild,
Right.
and actually on his deathbed,
Mhm.
prohibited her from coming to his funeral, which I thought was a little
Really?
spiky. Yeah, but
Wow.
the rest of his wives, over the course of the time, he was cool with. So, but anyway, yeah. So he died in March 27th, 2020. Oh, sorry, 2002,
Mhm. Wow.
as a result of pneumonia, which is often the case with some of these problematic diseases.
Yeah. Now I tell
So,
you,
but
yeah. The thing about Dudley Moore is he after 10, I do remember he kind of became like the it comedian in the
mhm.
late 70s, early 80s. If anybody's not familiar with Dudley Moore, tens and I don't know. I was Blake Edwards made a lot of movies back then.
Mm,
He he made the Pink Panther, or he made
yeah,
a few of the Pink Panther movies, which were good.
yeah,
Uh, but then Arthur definitely launched him while
yeah.
Douglas
That
Fairbanks.
knocked it out of the park. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Peter Cook thing. One of my favorite, I still joke around about this. One of my favorite routines they did. You mentioned the one-legged soccer player, but they did another one called The Frog and the Peach. Do you remember that one?
Uh-huh. I don't remember it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, so the Frog and the Peach, they're like one of them is like a food critic, or they're talking about the opening a restaurant, and the restaurant only has two meals, or two whatever you call it,
Two dishes.
courses. Yeah, two dishes. Yeah, and one is a basically like flambe a frog, and it's got a peach shoved in its mouth. And
Mm.
the other thing is a peach, and when you cut it open, it's filled with tadpoles.
That's funny.
So very Monty Python esque. And also,
Yeah, yeah, it is
they did
very.
the movie in the '60s called Bedazzled, which was remade. Uh, a movie we need to add to our viewing collection. I remember seeing that as a kid, and it was remade, but it was excellent. So very interesting. I didn't know that he was dead, and I didn't know that he died of that condition. That's crazy. We were
The thing
even.
that I found. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying when we started talking about Dudley Moore, I didn't think he was gone. I didn't, and he's
Yeah,
been gone
I
for
didn't either.
over 20 years.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing that I found most interesting, and what really comes through on his history, is that although he was famous
Uh-huh.
uh, for being in film, he was actually a musician. He was that was his true love, and a very accomplished musician nonetheless. So yeah, he's got a
Keyboard.
jazz, yeah, piano, organ, all that stuff.
Wow.
His jazz discography is big, if not bigger, than his filmography. So
Wow. Yeah. And I'm sitting here looking at like I'm sitting here looking at his internet movie database as you're talking, and it's amazing how many of these movies he did a sequel to Author. Oh, there you go.
yeah,
That's
author too.
yeah, that's sad.
Mm.
But yeah, he did he was pretty. A lot of these movies were big time. Like I remember Holy Moses. I remember that.
Do
So
you?
yeah, the whole concept behind Holy Moses was he was like Moses's brother who he was like always in Moses's shadow. It was funny, for the time.
Mm.
It was interesting. But
Well, again, if I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this, but if you look at the number of movies that have been made and versus the number of successful movies, it's astronomical. I mean, so most people that are actors, and you look up their filmography, most movies were not good. You know what I mean? Like most of the
no,
ones. There's a
yeah,
few exceptions. Tom Cruise has been in pretty much almost all of his movies were at least box office successes.
right.
And there's a couple others, the Harrison Fords of the world, but most actors, nah, man, there's a
Yeah.
lot of grind. But
Well,
anyway,
well, I mean, we talk about what goes into making a movie, and my frustration with Hollywood. And as an actor, I'm sure there's. Do you even have the ability to turn down a script?
right.
But yeah, so that's interesting. That is actually very cool. And it makes me sad. I kind of want to go back and rewatch Arthur. I got to be very honest with you. I do not think I've seen it all the way through.
Yeah, I loved that movie, and it's why when you had mentioned that, I thought, hell yeah, man, I'll do Dudley Moore because I just thought he was just so natural in that film.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if he drank a shit ton or not, but he played that off really well in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, just his personality was great, and the message in the film was positive, and yeah. So anyway,
yeah. Nowadays, I don't think you could make it, and it had Liza Minnelli in it. And she was
yeah, no,
great.
exactly.
Yeah, so, all right, so I'm up. Okay. So
who you got?
I got number one. I got Emilio Estevez, and
okay, yeah,
and truthfully, like I said, mine probably are not, as kind of, because he's still around, So, if anybody doesn't know, he's Martin Sheen's son. He's also Charlie Sheen's brother. So nepotism in Hollywood. He kind of, the thing about people like Emilio Estevez, and again, kind of why I picked him was he was a big '80s, star, and
he was,
yeah, and the things I remembered him for were Young Guns, right? He was
Young Guns, of course.
And when I go back and actually look at his internet movie database, he doesn't really have a lot on here compared to other people. He's only got 47 acting credits, which is not a whole lot, but he did. His first movie that kind of set him off was let me see here. He did oh shit. Oh yes, he was in The Outsider. What's that? No, The Outsiders.
Oh, The Outsiders. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he played a tough kid in that, didn't he?
Yeah. That was the whole thing about that movie. He played a kid named Two Bit Matthews, but he wasn't the star. And then he did, and I thought it was kind of interesting. He was in Repo Man, which was kind of a independent film that came out in 1984, but the breakout role that I'm probably most familiar with him is he was in The Breakfast Club. He played the jock in The Breakfast Club. And if you haven't seen The Breakfast Club,
that was a great movie.
Oh, amazing! Yeah. And he had I think he had kind of a bit part in St. Elmo's Fire, but he was part of the Brat Pack. Yeah.
What did they call them? They didn't call them the Brat Pack. What did they call them? They called them something.
No, they were the Brat Pack. Weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. They were the Brat Pack, and Sinatra and those guys were the Rat Pack. That's right. I knew there was a spin-off of that. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Exactly. But anyway, he ended up doing Young Guns. Young Guns came out in 1988, where he played Billy the Kid. They did a sequel to Young Guns. And
make you famous.
Huh?
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
that was a
great movie. I love that movie.
It was a great movie. Young Guns was a great movie, and he was great in it. He was really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just so you know, he was born on May 12th. He's currently 60 years old, so he's a little bit older than us.
Jeez, he's dead. He's dead.
Well, so did you know he was once married to Paula Abdul? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes, he was once married to Paula Abdul.
Street cred, buddy.
Yeah, and probably where he kind of did like his final like leaning into acting was he did the Mighty Ducks movies, which I've never
remember that.
Yeah, you do or not? You don't?
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah, and I will say this: obviously, those were kids' movies, but they were very popular. They were. I thought he did a great job.
Oh, you've seen them? You've seen them?
Yeah, I've seen the first one. I didn't see all of them. I know there was multiple sequels, but
I've never seen.
I did see the first one. It was great, man.
Was it really?
It's a youth, kids, fun. There's no consequence to it or whatever. But
really, that's very cool. Yeah, because again, I've never seen them. So I'll make you watch Bedazzled, and you make me watch Mighty Ducks.
Done deal.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. There's that. And then he just basically kind of fell off. But he's just one of these individuals that made the decision that he would like to spend more time behind the camera, producing and so forth. So he's not. There's no real tragedy, nothing like that. He did do a movie with his father called The Way in 2010. And just to let you know, he's currently working on Young Guns 3. It's actually not called Young Guns. It's called Guns 3 because they're not young anymore.
Oh yeah, old guns.
Yeah, so he's what do you call redoing his or he's going to play Billy the Kid again. So
oh wow.
Yeah, so I don't know.
All right. That'd be cool. I'm looking forward to that because I always liked the legend and the lore around Billy the Kid, and I thought his rendition of Billy the Kid was great.
Yeah. Yeah. So
but at the end of Young Guns 2, they blast out of that building like Sundance, and don't they?
Shit if I know, bro.
I can't remember. Yeah,
So,
no, I think I'm mixing it up with Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Yeah,
But definitely happened to Butch Cassidy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, so he's so yeah. In this Guns, it's called Guns 3. Christian Slater and Lou Diamond Phillips are involved. So.
Cool. That's a guy who's had like an ongoing career. Lou Diamond Phillips, he's converted over to TV and he's done a lot of stuff. So
yeah, it's amazing how these people will kind of reinvigorate their career. I do like Christian Slater too. So I mean, he's never completely faded out. But again, nothing super exciting with Emilio Estevez. He's still around. He just does he does a lot of production and I think he's made enough money so where he can kind of pick and choose what he does. There was a Mighty Ducks TV show. He does show up in the credits, but I don't know if it was just cameos or what.
But producer or something. Yeah.
No, he acted in it. He was in it.
Oh, okay.
Could have been flashbacks. Could have been anything. But,
yeah, sure.
But I'm not going to wade into that. I haven't seen the movies, and it's on Disney Plus, so I'm going to take a hard pass.
Yes.
I did kind of look. Okay. I was kind of like, "What is?"
We'll just go ahead and bypass that conversation altogether.
I started typing on the keyboard. What does Emilio Estevez play in the Mighty Ducks? And I was like, fuck it, and I just stopped typing. I don't care. I don't care what he does in it. It's not a big deal. I'm looking forward to Guns 3.
Yeah, Guns 3.
Emilio, I really like it. It's funny.
I'm curious to see how they. Deal with the fact that somehow he's going to have not been killed because apparently Pat. The sheriff. Can you hear all this shit in the background? Cut it out, dogs. These two dogs fun. They have to go. Okay, yeah. So I've always liked Emilio Estevez, really have. So I thought it was good. But
yeah.
How about Mike Myers? Whatever happened to Mike Myers?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I was going to say real quick before we get on yours, Mike Myers. I was going to say Charlie Sheen, bucket of crazy. Emilio Estevez, not so much.
Not so much. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Mike Myers. I don't know.
Yeah, Mike Myers. Yeah. So. That's the thing is one of the reasons I picked him is because during his heyday, I mean, you couldn't open a newspaper or turn on the TV without seeing that guy. He was everywhere, man.
He was the man.
Yeah. So he started his whole thing with Dana Carvey from Saturday Night Live when they adapted the stuff and turned it into Wayne's World.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that was excellent.
Right. I like Wayne's World. It was great.
Yeah,
both of them were good.
Fun. Yeah, they were both really good. The whole scene in the car where they're doing the Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
And of course, that the way those two played off each other, Dana Carvey totally steals it every time because he's awesome. But yeah, Mike Myers was strong on his own for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, Wayne's World 2, that was in '93. And then he did So I Married an Axe Murderer. Have you seen that?
Love it.
Yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I could watch it again. And now that I'm a little more familiar with Mike Myers, because I didn't watch Saturday Night Live, so I wasn't really familiar with all the stuff that he did and kind of like his crazy zaniness.
Right.
I was just familiar with Wayne's World, and then I saw So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Well, one thing about Why I Married an Axe Murderer, I should say two things. There's one line in there that I still to this day use that I stole from that movie, like where he's at the coffee shop and the waitress brings that mug of coffee and it's like the size of a fishbowl, and he goes, "Excuse me, I ordered a large," And hello. And even this day, like when I go eat at some restaurant, they bring me like that plate of nachos that's, as big as a freaking trough. I'm always like, ma'am, I'm sorry, we ordered a large nacho. And the other thing is the dad. The dad's when he plays the dad is glimpses of brilliance for things like Austin Powers and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So because then he went on after that. He took a hiatus from Saturday Night Live, and then he did in '97. He did Austin Powers, which was, I went to see that. I was on the ship, and we pulled in port. I don't even remember where, and we just went out to the movies, and I saw that, and I was in stitches, man. That was the funniest shit I've ever seen.
Right.
And of course, ultimately quotable film, so we were quoting it for months after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years later in '99, he did The Spy Who Shagged Me. And then in 2002, he did Goldmember. Mm-hmm. So of course, everybody knows he played Dr. Evil as well as Fat Bastard in those movies.
All that, yeah.
He did do a movie called 54 in 1998, which was a non-comedy role, where he was portraying a guy. He was the proprietor of that disco nightclub, Studio 54 in New York City in the 70s. And I didn't see that, but it was not commercially successful.
Right.
But he did get some positive feedback from it. And then the interesting stuff is then 2000, he was sued by Universal for backing out of a contract to make a feature film based on his Saturday Night Live character, Dieter. So he refused to do it because he didn't think the script was any good. And he didn't want to put his name on it, and be the guy on screen with a freaking dud. So he ended up countersuing those guys. And after the lawyers fought it out for a while, they ended up doing the Cat in the Hat. That was kind of the compromise. That's how he ended up in the Cat in the Hat, which was like,
never seen it.
If you like Mike Myers, have you seen it?
No.
Oh yeah, if you like Mike Myers, it's Mike Myers in a Cat in the Hat suit, basically. It doesn't hold very true to any of the Dr. Seuss stuff in my mind. The style and stuff of Dr. Seuss is there in terms of the character outfits and stuff, but it was more Mike Myers-ish, which is he's got an edge to his comedy where, of course, Dr. Seuss is kid stuff. It's very soothing, but. Anyway, so, and then in 2001, he ended up on Shrek, which, of course, launched him into a whole nother stratosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just kept doing Shrek stuff for a while. He did Shrek 4D, theme park ride in 2003. I know, right? Yeah. I think it was like a voiceover thing or something.
Sure.
And then Shrek 2 came out in 2004. 3 years later, Shrek the Third came out. There was a holiday special called Shrek the Halls.
Right.
And there's a Halloween one called Scared Shrekless. And then lastly, he did Shrek Forever and After. So those that got kind of like, they stretched that one for all they could get out of it. But he did get a MTV Generation Award in 2007, the second Canadian to win. Could you guess who the other Canadian is that would have won?
For
MTV Generation Award.
Rick Moranis?
Nope, Jim Carrey.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay.
Didn't even know he was Canadian. So there you go.
Yeah.
So after that, he did The Love Guru, which he co-produced and co-wrote, which was a flop.
That's interesting because, not to interrupt, but I was waiting for you to get to that, because you look at like the Austin Powers movies and how they kind of, his humor, even though it kind of runs the same, right? It's this kind of, and The Love Guru is kind of more of the same. But even though Austin Powers, everybody loved it, The Love Guru offended so many people. I remember how everybody hated that movie because they felt it was sexist and racist. And
I wonder if that's the time difference, though, right? The cultural shift.
Yeah, I think he got freaking nailed by the first beginning of the tsunami. I think that's exactly what happened.
Could be, yeah.
Because I've watched The Love Guru. It's terrible, but I didn't hate it for those reasons. I thought whatever. It's just Mike Myers.
I just thought it was crappy.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was shitty. Yeah.
How about this? In 2009, He played a British general named Ed French in Inglourious Basterds.
I
Did you
know
know
that.
that?
Yep, I
I
knew
did.
that.
I
Yeah.
did not know that
I
until I
remember.
did
I
this.
remember him being in that. Yeah. So
Yeah. And then in 2018, he did a couple of supporting roles in The Terminal and Bohemian Rhapsody.
mhm.
Um, and then he basically has, I won't say retired because he's never said that he's retired. In fact, he said in May last year, he gave some kind of a cryptic message that Austin Powers 4 was kind of in the works. But, again, based on that tsunami of hypersensitive
Yeah.
uh, people's sensibilities, I think that might get shelved.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so he's turned into somewhat of a family man, I think, living in with his wife and kids in upstate New York, and he just on the DL, that's all.
Yeah.
From what I read, he just is not interested in getting in the mix of all of that shit. Because I can't imagine those guys. It's what a life, man. It's hard. Every place you go, people mob you. Um, and I used to think about this about the rock stars, like, and Jackson Brown even has a song about it, but they do what they do because they like to do that. But then there's all the other shit that goes with it. It's got to be tedious as hell, man.
Mhm.
And rock stars coming to town, it sucks going on a road trip. Imagine doing that for a year. Like every couple days, you drive 1,000 miles on a bus, and then you got to get out, and then you got to talk to 3 or 4 different radio stations. They all ask you the same shit, and then you got to go sign autographs. And I'm not saying they got it's a terrible life or whatever, but I imagine that would get pretty monotonous after a while.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what he ended up with.
Well, similar probably to Emilio Estevez. He didn't need it.
Yeah.
So he walked
Yeah.
away.
He's like, I'm not going to put myself through all that crap, miss your family growing up and all that stuff. So,
Right. Well, that's and also we talked about we could do another one on Rick Moranis, whatever. He disappeared too, and it was all about family, and there's more to it than that. I know that. I also know that Mike Myers, only because I have Netflix, he did like the Pentaverate on there, and I watched a little bit of that. It was kind of maybe of a little bit of a comeback for him that didn't land. I watched it. I didn't think it was that good. But and I also know that him and Dana Carvey actually knocked heads quite a bit. Did you? Yeah, and they've kind of made up. But I understand that Mike Myers is actually kind of difficult to work with. He's somebody that's hard to work with on.
Well, it seems to me like it would be the same with Jim Carrey. It seems like they have a very unique, kind of very singular, focused kind of idea of what's good, right? What's funny, and because they can do that. Like Jim Carrey can be that slapstick guy, and he nails it. You don't even have to give him directions. Take off, dude. Do your thing. But for other people, to try to be in a group and all of that, I think I could see how that could really turn into a problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's the funny guy in the room. Let's freaking listen to Mike Myers, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
But so my next one was Michael Biehn. So
Michael Biehn.
Anybody unfamiliar with Michael, Mr. Biehn? I think I'm saying his name right. He actually
Bonier.
He actually, huh?
Is it Bonier? Just asking. Just just trying to be sensitive.
I think it's Bain or Biehn.
Okay.
Bain. Yeah, so, but if anybody's wondering who Michael is, he was Kyle Reese in the Terminator movies, and he was also Corporal Hicks in Alien. And the reason I picked him has more to do with the fact that he was in 2 of my favorite movies that I just named. And so has over 100 acting credits. This is another one of the situations where he's not gone. He just isn't doing anything that anybody's watching right now. So he got to start. He's let me see, where is he right now? He was born in 56, so he's 67 years old. He played Navy SEALs in 3 different movies, that being The Rock, The Abyss, and Navy SEALs, which is another excellent movie, super popular. And like I said, the mid to late 80s, early 90s. And then
all 3 of those movies were real popular.
Super popular. We didn't star The Rock, but he was in it.
I mean,
he was in it as a main character. He was in Aliens. He was in The Abyss. He did Navy SEALs, like I mentioned. He was in Tombstone. He was great in Tombstone. But his first major acting credit is he was in the Logan's Run TV series.
Logan's Run, what do you know?
There you go. The most interesting thing about him that I can say is clearly he hitched his wagon to the James Cameron horse, right? So he was in, again, the Terminator, Alien, which is probably one of my top three favorite movies. And he was in The Abyss also, which is a James Cameron movie. He was actually approached to star in or have a role in Avatar, and he turned it down. So
Wow.
yeah,
I wonder why.
I don't know. I think who knows, but I did read one article, one interview with him, and it was about the Terminator and Alien. He didn't even really want to do the Terminator because he always kind of considered himself. He wanted to be like De Niro and wanted to be like Pacino. What really got him interested in acting was Taxi Driver. So that's kind of the roles he wanted. And of course, he was approached by whoever to star in the Terminator. And he did one. I can't even remember the name of it. He did a movie earlier on that didn't land, but his agent was like, "This guy's the next big thing," and then was approached about Terminator. And the only movie that James Cameron had done was one of the Piranha movies, and he was also told that the movie was going to star Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was like, "No way, I'm not Piranha Schwarzenegger." and so then he jumped in that movie, and everything else is history. And during that movie, he started to realize that what a workhorse James Cameron was. He even talks about in this article how like he would act for like 12 hours. In LA, running around in bare feet, falling and getting hurt, and then James Cameron wanted him to go with him to watch the dailies and whatnot, and Michael Bain was like, "Nope, I'm going to go home and go to bed."
I'm tired.
I appreciate your work ethic, and so that's kind of what dragged him into the Alien movies, the Aliens, and also in his article he talks about how awesome Bill Paxton was. Who I sorely miss. I thought Bill Paxton was just amazing.
He was awesome. Yeah,
he was so good. Awesome. God, it's such a tragedy, his loss. But everything he was in. I mean, to this day, Weird Science and Chet was like the first time I ever see him. And then he stole the every time he was on camera in Aliens, he was amazing.
Same with True Lies when he was with Schwarzenegger in True Lies.
Yep. Oh, big time. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. True Lies.
Kind of ass like a 12-year-old boy, if you know what I mean.
Would a spy pee himself? Oh God, True Lies. Oh my God, that's a movie we probably need to talk about. That is again one of my favorites. Okay, we're digressing because we do that shit.
Yes, we're falling off.
True Lies. Have you ever killed anybody? Yeah, but they were all bad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man! And I tell you what, I kind of can't stand James Cameron now. But his early stuff, all the way up to Titanic, I think Titanic blew up his ego so much.
Yeah.
But his earlier stuff, man, Terminator, Aliens, True Lies, amazing.
Yeah. So that's the thing, man. You and I got to talk about this. We'll make this a podcast at some point.
Okay.
Your love for / fascination with Alien, because I'm just never been a fan. So
that's okay.
I'll watch it. Yeah, I'll watch it, and then we'll talk it over because, maybe I'm missing something. But
okay, yeah, I will. I definitely have my feelings on it. So, but now you want me? Now I kind of want to do it right this freaking minute, but we won't.
Nope,
okay, because I can definitely. Well, okay, only because we had the Quentin Tarantino, and I will leave it at this. We'll press on. Okay. Is there's movies that I watch and I'm thinking, okay, now things have changed. Okay. And of course, Alien the first one was a certain type of movie. It was a horror movie, right? And James Cameron took that, made a sequel that went in a completely different direction. And there's hits in that movie. There's moments in that movie where I'm kind of like, that's perfect. Now I will tell you, there's things about it that have not aged well, but with that said, I think at the time it was a movie that kind of just blew my mind. So okay. Hey, and as Doug mentioned this, he also knows that I actually have an Aliens tattoo. So boom. Anyway, all right. So Michael Bain, but he loved Bill Paxton, and he's gone on to do other stuff. I mean, his Internet Movie Database shows that he's still acting and so forth. He just was very popular in the 80s and 90s, and then he's just kind of fallen back into other roles. He did show up in a Tarantino movie too, so he was in Grindhouse. Not
Hmm.
Not Tarantino movie. He was doing Grindhouse. He was in the Robert Rodriguez
The
Planetary.
Rodriguez
Yeah,
side of it, yeah.
yeah. So, all right.
All right. Well, how about um, Natalie Merchant
Oh wow.
from 10,000 Maniacs?
Right.
I was not a 10,000 Maniacs fan. I can tell you that.
Okay.
It was a little too, at the time, I classified it as pop, but
Mhm.
when I look back on it, it was more sophisticated than pop. It really was. I give those guys credit because their music it wasn't just, bubblegum stuff. But I just never I never kind of got into it. But that was in 1981 when she became the lead singer for 10,000 Maniacs. And
Mhm.
they did 8 albums, which I did not know. And I think musicians have that same thing as actors, any entertainers, I guess, is like they produce all of this content, and if they're lucky, one or two things becomes popular. So then if you look at bands like the Eagles or, Johnny Cash or whatever, and have
Mhm.
so many hits, you're like, man, how the hell do they do that? But anyway, so she grew apart from the band, and they ended up going their separate ways in '91. She announced it in '91. They stuck around till '93, and then she was replaced by somebody named Mary Ramsey, who I've never heard of.
Mhm.
But apparently she's very kind of like we were just talking about a minute ago with Mike Myers. She's very like I don't want to say pig-headed is a bad way to say it, but she's determined, right? She's really like a headstrong kind of a person.
Mhm.
And so she wasn't real happy with the direction the band was going, and she wanted to do her own stuff. So she wrote and produced the album Tiger Lily in 1995, which skyrocketed. I mean, over 5 million copies sold almost instantly. I mean, and just to give you are you familiar with that record?
No, not at all.
Tiger Lily? Just to give you some idea, I own 3 copies of it. I own it on vinyl, I own it on CD, and then I have an MP3 of it. And I'm trying to buy it off of what do you call it? The high premium 180 grain vinyl, uh, digitally remastered. I can't remember what it's called. It's a high fidelity recording of this record. And I went to go onto their website. Mobile Fidelity is what it is. I went to their website to go buy it in vinyl, and they were sold out. And they said, "Oh, coming soon. Put your name on the email list, and we'll email you when it comes available." Last week, I got an email from them said, "Hey, Tiger Lily's back in stock." And oh, great! I got that in middle of the day when I was at work. By the time I got home, sold out. I
No
mean,
doubt.
that is a magnificent album. I mean, everything about it. She played all of the piano. Obviously, she sings, and her voice is just awesome, awesome. It's like right in the middle of that raspy whiskey kind of girl voice
Mhm.
and an opera singer. It's somewhere in the middle of all of that. But anyway, so she was going up in the charts big time. And then only a couple of years later, she released another album called Ophelia. And again, another just spectacular record. And it just really gave her some street cred, as they say, for being able to actually write and produce very, very good music. It sold pretty well. And she had a hit on there called Kind and Generous, which is probably one of her larger, more popular hits. Then she did a few other things after that. She did Live in Concert in '99, which was the album she did. And then she did a tour. She slipped, I don't know, whatever, consciously probably chose to go over into more of a folk kind of a scene rather than rock, pop, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and so she then released her next record in 2001 called Motherland, and did a whole year-long tour for that. I have that as well, and I didn't think that was as good. Maybe it's because it's more folky than it is uh, her other stuff, but it was okay. I mean, still, she's got a beautiful voice, but I didn't really connect real well with the songs and stuff. Um, but then she basically kind of bowed out for a long time from the music world. She's made so much freaking money off these 3 records that she put out on her own, and she always wanted to be a teacher. So she's gone off and become like a children arts and crafts teacher in homeless shelters in Harlem. And she donates all kinds of money to women's and children's causes and stuff. So she's almost like an activist now.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, and then in 2003, she ended up getting married. She turned 40. She had a kid, so all these life changes started happening. So she married her personal photographer and had her kid, and they live somewhere out in southern Spain. But she just recently announced that she's got another record coming out. She's done lots of charity work and all that kind of stuff. But she's got a new record coming out. And I'm really curious to hear it because, it's been 15, 20 years since she put a record out, and
right.
It doesn't matter who you are. Life changes you in 15 or 20 years,
Right.
So it'd be curious to see what her take on the world is, because she was very, like, if you listen to her songs on Tiger Lily, they're very direct. I mean, it's like, I don't know, some people like poetry when it becomes like the poet is really like rawly exploring their emotions and stuff. That's kind of what she did on Tiger Lily, and there's no masking of things. It's very, very open and stuff. And I'm just curious to see how this next record comes out. But yeah, so that's Natalie Merchant, and I probably don't agree with her on the political spectrum and all of that, but I mad respect for her piano skills and her vocals. Just awesome. So I hope this next one's good, and I hope she's successful.
Very cool.
But yeah, so that's her. Also living in upstate New York. Maybe her and Mike Myers should just hang out together or something. I don't know.
Now, clearly you're a big fan of Natalie Merchant, though. I will, like I said, I'm familiar with 10,000 Maniacs, but I never drilled down into her that much. So,
but you got to check out Tiger Lily. You really do have to listen to it with a very open mind, though, because so much time has passed since she wrote it. Like when she wrote it, it was really poignant, and it still is if you know the music.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just try to casually listen to it, it's like, okay, it's throwaway music, but it really isn't. I mean, if you dig into it a little bit, it's like the lyrical content is just freaking awesome.
We talk about how quickly it sold out. It's like Pet Shop Boy. Was it Pet Shop Sounds? Which was that? Or that one? Sometimes you get musical artists that just are like lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's what Tiger Lily was, because it really is like that. One of the things that my wife and your wife go out when you and I do the podcast, sometimes they go out. And I've never been to where Melanie takes us out, but she's telling me, oh, there's this record store and these people sell all these old records. I'm going to go there and I'm going to scavenge, because you can find old high fidelity recordings of some of the earlier versions of that Mobile Fidelity. Right. And Natalie Merchant. And if somebody knows what they have, you can't get that record for under $250. So it's a treasured thing in the record collector's world, which is one of the reasons probably Mobile Fidelity is producing so few of them. It's because it keeps the value up. But
certainly that's definitely the case. So
one of the other things I was going to mention that I didn't talk about with her, she did some duet stuff with the Cowboy Junkies.
How cool!
You've heard of them, but
I wouldn't know Cowboy Junkie song. I've heard of them. So
yeah, they got a really cool style. I don't know how to even explain it. It's definitely not country music. It's not folk. It's not pop. It's just this amalgamation of all these things, and it's put together really neat. It's definitely not your average music, but when she lends her vocals to their stuff, it is magic, man. It is just like, I would love to see those guys live, because I guarantee you, you get goosebumps, man. If you like actually, like real live music.
That's crazy.
But if they ever come around, I'll let you know, and we'll definitely go, because the Cowboy Junkies are still touring and stuff. So, all right, well, that's that.
I saved what I consider to be my best for last.
Okay.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Bridget Fonda. So
okay,
and going back off our Tarantino, she was in Jackie Brown. So Bridget Fonda, daughter of
Jane.
No, Peter. Yeah. So Peter. So she actually had her first acting credit, which was uncredited. She was in Easy Rider. She actually, just
she must have been like a little kid or something.
Just a baby. So
baby, yeah, that's what I meant.
She was listed as child in commune, uncredited. So she's let me think. She was born in 1964, so she's 59 years old right now. and so and what made her so interesting to me, or why I wanted to talk about her, is just like a lot of the other people we're talking about, like Dudley Moore or so forth, during that time of the late 80s, early 90s, she was kind of ubiquitous. She was kind of everywhere. I mean, she did, she was in lots of movies. She started kind of, she had a bit part in 21 Jump Street, the TV show, but then she was in Godfather 3. She was in Army of Darkness. Was it Army of Darkness? The Sam Raimi movie. Yeah, Army of Darkness, the sequel to Evil Dead 2. She did singles. She did Single White Female. She did Kiss of the Dragon, Point of No Return, which is a remake of a French movie that was an action. So she did action. She did all kinds of stuff. We talked about her in Jackie Brown. She was really good in Jackie Brown. She was a great actress. And her last acting credit was in 2002, where she played the Snow Queen in the movie Snow Queen. Shortly after that, she had a motor vehicle accident where she injured her back, and that's kind of where her acting career ended. She's actually married to Danny Elfman, the guy from Oingo Boingo, right? Who does a lot of soundtracks, right? He does a lot of that kind of stuff, and so all she did was she just kind of faded away and became like a mom. She just that's what she does now.
What a gig! Because if you can pull that off, where you can do something in your youth and make enough money to sustain yourself from there forward, what a great job, man.
I know. So, but I'm going to let me share a screen with you here. This is from last year. The typical paparazzi caught a picture of her with her kids at a park. There she is.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, yeah. Oh, Jesus. I mean, it's like you would never recognize her now, right?
Not in a million years.
Not in a million years, right? So
that's all I'm gonna say about that.
That's all we need to say about that, right? You would not in a million years recognize. You would not in a million years.
There's no way, dude.
That's what it is, man.
I don't know that that's true.
That's her.
That might be a fake photo.
It's not.
Okay, you say so.
I know, and so, yeah. So she just basically is now a mom. She doesn't do any interviews. I look for articles talking to her. She's a mom. That's what she does. She's a mom.
Well, I mean, that's a great thing to be. There's I'm not bagging on that at all. I think that's actually more people should do more of that and less of the stupid shit that they do. But I just didn't. I would never in a million years recognize her.
No. And it's the other pictures where she's talking to other moms and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's like I said, I don't know. It's something to think about, because she's always been beautiful. She had a kind of a unique look, and when you say I wouldn't recognize her, I don't even see that unique look. She looks like somebody I would see at a grocery store. I wouldn't even think. That woman, even though she's now 59 years old, she looks like a 59-year-old Bridget Fonda. Nope, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. So it's interesting.
59-year-old Walmart shopper.
Yes, pretty much. Exactly. Yeah. So, but I think that there was a car accident. She's married. I think the car accident was, maybe I'd have to go back and look, and I'm sure if anybody would like to correct me, please feel free to. I think it might have been involved maybe like a DUI type thing too, maybe. Because she's probably doing something she shouldn't have been doing, but she hurt herself. And but to me, it's crazy. Like a lot of these other actors are talking about, like Emilio Estevez and Michael Biehn or whoever, they still act. They're still involved in Hollywood. She's completely stepped away. I mean, I think her last in public, that was a paparazzi picture I showed you, but her last in public photos was with her husband, Danny Elfman, on the red carpet, like in 2009. So she's made a very strong effort to fade away, disappear.
Cut out,
yeah. I mean, you look at her aunt, which is Jane Fonda. Her grandfather was Henry Fonda, but her aunt Jane Fonda continues to act, right? Like continues to be out there, but she just walked away. So,
well, good for her.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with all these individuals, I guess there's probably a bit of a I don't know, philosophical question is, how much money do you have to have before you can just step away? Now, again, she's married to Danny Elfman, so that guy's still bringing home a paycheck. But
you think? Yeah, he's got, I don't know how many soundtracks under his belt.
And Oingo Boingo, which, by the way,
If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to look it up as we're talking. I think he did the soundtrack to Batman with Michael Keaton.
yep, he did. He works a lot with what's his name?
I don't even have to look it up.
What's the guy's name? We
I
did
have to look it up. I knew I was right.
Yeah, I know, but who?
I have that soundtrack.
Do you really?
Tony is typing.
I am, and this is going to be it.
Useless information coming your way. Stand by. Hold on to that steering wheel. Check that rear view mirror.
He works a lot with Tim Burton. That's what I was trying to say.
Tim Burton, yes.
He works a lot with Tim Burton. So, yes.
Cool. Well, there's one thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention about Natalie Merchant.
Okay. I think you have a hard crush on Natalie Merchant.
I don't actually. If you, hold on, I'll see if I can share. I'll share a picture of her later. Anyway, so the young Natalie Merchant, maybe, which go back in time and all that stuff. But she wrote a song.
What could have been, Doug? What could have been?
What could have been? Yeah, you never know. But she wrote a song on Tiger Lily that it hit me hard. And when you're getting ready to graduate as an undergrad, whatever, you usually have to do a final project and all that stuff. And when I was in film school, I based my final project on her song, and it's called "Beloved Wife."
Okay.
And my final project sucked out loud. It was terrible. But in creative endeavors that happen sometimes, I did not get to choose the people that I worked with.
Right.
And I had a chip on my shoulder about how it was all going. And anyway, so the project itself was very unpleasant to participate in, but I still like the idea. And one of these days I've told myself I'm gonna redo that project and do it the way I want to do it. But the basic story of Beloved Wife is there's an old guy in his 70s, and he loses his wife. His wife dies first. And he was so, like, you hear these stories, right? That the husband or the wife dies and then the next one passes away months later or whatever. Mm-hmm. But this guy was so attached to his wife that instead of waiting for that to happen, he killed himself. And it's what the song is talking about. And it's like, I have the right to do this because now you're gone. I don't have anybody else to kind of live up to expectations for. The rest of the world can kiss my ass, basically. And I thought that was a cool concept because it's not something that you hear about or talk about much. So again, I wrote an awesome script. Not really. I had a free actor or free actresses, a free actor and actress, and a terrible crew to work with. So a bunch of students and shit. So it didn't come out very good. I'll show it to you one day. It did not come out very good, but I still like the idea. I would like to revisit that. So anyway, so that was. I think we need to move in that direction anyway. We need to start making films. So Jesus Christ, ain't gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
You freaking don't never say never, bro.
I'm saying never with a capital N. Anyway, we can make YouTube videos. That's what we can make.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Dude, I don't want to actually make a film.
Oh yeah, I'm going to share with you. Remind me. You know what? Let's do this.
Okay.
Yeah, this could be I'm saying could be another podcast. I have another script that I wrote about an alien landing on our planet. And I want you to read that. I got to dig it up. I got to find it. But I want you to read that because I think you'll like it.
Cool.
You could riff on it a little, and we could actually make it better. Probably.
We could. We still need to go back and revisit the
Grover thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Did we talk about that on this podcast?
I think we brought it up once, but we didn't drill down into it at all. No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll dig that up.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Let's end it there. This has been another episode of us talking about random bullshit for freaking about an hour. I hope you enjoyed it.
Tolerated it at least. Yeah. Just we'll pay for the aspirin if it gave you a headache. So
you bet. Thanks again, everybody. You have a great day.
See ya.
This has been an Analog Spectrum production and presentation. As always, it means a ton to both me and Doug that you took time to listen to our show. We enjoy making these things, but we get a massive kick out of knowing we have a few friends hearing what we have to say. This is about the 4th outro I've done, so let's keep it short. Please subscribe, share, and if you like what you're hearing, give us a top-notch 5-star review. Finally, feel free to email us, Facebook message us, or tweet at us. We love feedback and criticism, as long as it's constructive. and we're always interested in new show ideas. Well, that's all I have for now. The shows will keep coming, I promise you that. Thanks again for hanging out with me and all of us at Analog Spectrum. We'll see you again soon.